first question I was asked to answer after reading over the paper here was the history of welfare systems, and it says discussing institutional development views of welfare services systems. Which view do you agree with? Clearly state your opinion and why. This is the hardest question of all of them to answer. I think this is a continuum of everything that's added to this, and I agree and disagree with bits and pieces of both. I think the best way I was able to answer this from an intellectual standpoint, to clearly state my opinion of where we're at and why we're where we're at, is to go over my viewpoints of what has happened over the last 60, 70 years. There was no social welfare system in America before 1940, 1935. If you were poor and couldn't get enough to eat, you starved unless your neighbors helped, right? It was all based on charity and no true social program, no true structure. That changed with FDR and the New Deal, and he saw a lot of suffering during the Great Depression. He also understood that people can't pull themselves up by the bootstraps when they don't have any boots. Some of it was extreme, and I think people will point to a 96% tax rate for the very rich, but yet somehow the country was the most prosperous during those times. So I don't see equity in taxing somebody at that rate, but yet it's hard to argue with the results. Results for, I happen to say, for white people at the time too, right? There was a certain class that got the benefits from the tax breaks, and those people happened to be white, so there was a problem also within that system. That changed and continues to change, and I think the real change was when the country went into kind of the stagflation and the massive layoffs that happened in the 80s, and people started blaming big government. And Ronald Reagan came in and offered hope. He actually expanded government under military spending, but yet he had a good scapegoat, and that was poor people. And the made-up story of the welfare queen, which I think anybody who was over 40 could remember. The lady that was fictionalized to have food stamps, but yet drove the Cadillac. And to me, that's the turning point of FDR's New Deal to where we're at and heading now. And that social stigma thinking was poor people need to get over it. And we, as a country, 96% of us receive some sort of social welfare. Me, I'm sitting in my house, I have a tax break for interest that I pay. And it's not means tested. Most countries, westernized countries, have mean testing to give the money to the people that need it. And it's a very dirty word in America. People call it redistribution of wealth, and somehow it's a socialistic word, right? But do I really need that tax credit when somebody needs to send their kid to school, or needs health insurance, or needs child care for their children so they can go to work? And we've gotten away from that as a country, and our tax rates have changed, and again, only 7% of our programs are means tested, which means that only 7% are measured for those who truly need the benefit. So again, as I keep going on, it's a continuum, not just one little piece that I can pick out and say I agree or disagree with. It's parts and pieces of all of them. So that would be my answer to number one, the history of the social welfare system. Truly started, didn't have one into FDR, and now we're slowly eroding at it, and it becomes political. It's us versus them. And I would like to state very clearly too, it's mostly us. Most people who think they have financial security are 2 or 3 paychecks away, or a serious illness away from losing their house and being homeless. Okay.